Okay, hi, and welcome to Inspiring Chats with Nicky and Jax again for a second time. I'm Jax, and hi, Nicky.
Hi everyone.
And today we're going to introduce you to Katherine Brooke Mackenzie from the Healthy Gut Clinic and Bonny Prim, who's a Health and Wellbeing Coach. And as you can guess, we are talking about nutrition and the benefits of your mental health and your physical health. So, Katherine, should we start with you and just tell us a little bit about your business?
Yeah, thanks, Jackie. Hi everybody. My name is Katherine, as Jackie said, and I run the Healthy Gut Clinic. That's in Chippenham in Wiltshire. We help people with health-related problems, usually digestive, to regain their comfort and confidence. We offer the services of colon hydrotherapy and a range of supplements and things that target the purification of a person's gut microbiome. Now, it's not a usual business. It's not. I didn't end up in it because of careers advice at school. I sort of came to it really through my own journey of coming from very poor health as a result of things that happened in my childhood, which caused me to kind of go off the rails really and make poor choices. And those poor choices affected my physical and mental well-being. And I tried conventional health routes, but nothing really helped me. And I came into, like I say, complementary health in, I think it was around about 1999. And I did a 3-year acupuncture course, which helped iron me out quite a lot. It was a lot better then, but I still felt dirty because of the choices that I made. I felt ashamed, actually, of what I'd done to my body, and I wanted to find a way of, in a sense, apologising to myself for what I'd put myself through. Yeah. So, and I can't remember whether it was a TV show or something on the news or something in a newspaper, but I remember seeing Princess Diana bouncing out of some Harley Street clinic, having just had a colon hydrotherapy treatment. So I thought, that's good enough for her. It's going to be good enough for me. I said that in a kind of blasé way, but I was completely terrified about the whole thing. But went along for my appointment, and I won't go into too much detail or provide any pictures, but it pretty much sort of turned me inside out almost. But it wasn't what I expected it to be. It wasn't unpleasant, it wasn't smelly, it wasn't really that embarrassing, and it wasn't even uncomfortable. And what it did was triggered an extraordinary emotional release in me, and caused me to sort of have I want to say breakdown, but that sounds a bit too strong. But that day I started to cry, and cried for many, many hours, as if I was purging from my body all this pain that I'd been carrying around since my childhood. And although that process was really unpleasant and difficult to experience, it changed my life. I woke up the next day like a different person, and was so convinced about the efficacy, if you like, of this treatment that I went off to train, and I've been doing colonics ever since for 15 years. So that's why I ended up setting up a clinic to do colonics, really.
Do it for everybody else. Sounds amazing.
Well, you don't. I think I had an epiphany, and I mean, I've seen other people, that happened to other people in my years in the clinic, but it's not a common response. The usual reaction is feeling much better, much brighter, much lighter, improved digestive function, sleep, and everything else. It's so much more. Our bodies, as we know, are so much more complicated than we realise, and if we're not really releasing our wastes efficiently, then that's going to have an impact on every function of your body.
Yeah, definitely.
If you've ever stuck up a car's exhaust pipe, you know what happens, right?
Okay, so we will come back to talk more about colonic irrigation and the things to do with that as well. And Bonny, should we just hear a little bit about your business as well, and then we can have a chat about all the things involved with you both.
Okay, so I'm a health and wellbeing coach. So I'm a qualified nutritional therapist and a life coach. And I think most people that have got into the world of health and wellbeing have normally experienced something in one way, a bit like Katherine said as well. You kind of have an experience yourself, and then that has a profound impact on you, and you decide to kind of go down that route. So I'd coached corporately probably for about 20 odd years, and thought that I ought to get a certificate to prove that I was a proper coach, so trained to become a life coach. And around about the same time, I was kind of got to the point where I was really struggling with my weight. I'd struggled all my life. I was one of these people, as many people are, that try lots of different diets and pills and shakes and everything that comes along on the market, and probably kind of since my teenage years I'd tried those things, and my weight had yo-yoed the whole time, and then it kind of messes your metabolism up, which I didn't realize at the time. Then I had polycystic ovaries, endometriosis, fertility problems, and all of that comes along with it as well, and kind of reached a point, I'd probably say about 7 or 8 years ago, where I was just really stuck. I just wasn't losing any weight, and went to my GP in tears saying, you really need to help me. I don't know what else to do. I'm exercising, I think I'm eating well, but see, nothing's working and I can't work out what it is. So he was very, very good actually, and he knew a lot about nutrition, which is sometimes a bit unusual for GPs, but he knew quite a lot about it, and started to educate me and tell me a little bit more, and that kind of piqued my interest. And when I found that actually I could be healthy and well and lose weight and be the weight that I should be for my body just by eating normal foods, that was kind of my epiphany moment. And especially when people were asking me, what have you done different, what diet are you on, all those sorts of things, and I just said, well, I'm just eating normally, I'm just eating normal foods, that I thought actually these things go really well together. So the life coaching and the nutritional therapy go really well together, and hand in hand, by helping people move through some of the issues that they've got, maybe some of the limiting beliefs, and maybe some of the self-sabotage that people have around food and their association with food. So the coaching kind of helps with that, and then also to be able to help educate people about nutrition and food and what it does to the body and how it can help, and how you can kind of help with conditions that you might have. So I work with a lot of clients that have got type 2 diabetes, a lot of ladies that are suffering with menopause symptoms, endometriosis, which again I think is very kind of close to my heart. And I also just introduced some allergy and intolerance testing as well for clients, which unfortunately I can't do at the moment remotely, but once we're all kind of out of this situation, it'd be great to get back to that again, because I've had some amazing results with people with the kind of food intolerances and stuff that they've had. So that's my journey. That's how I got to where I am now.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so it's amazing, isn't it, how if you cut things out that actually are causing your body inflammation or discomfort, how it can make such a big difference.
Yeah, definitely. I've had a few clients from you kind of typical, oh, I've got a few tummy pains and there's some stuff going on that I think it means I've got an intolerance to something, through to a client that's had really bad eczema, and we've managed to get that under control through identifying what food it is, the potential trigger. And that's where it really helps working with a nutritional therapist with understanding those intolerances, because you can then start to reintroduce foods, understand the symptoms, and try and work out what those foods are. Because not always, some things, sometimes we'll get 10 things that come up in an intolerance test, and some people will do these ones online where you send your stuff off, they do the test for you, and then send you a report back to tell you all the things that you're intolerant to. And I just find that clients then go, oh my god, what am I supposed to do with that? And I don't know what all of that means. So actually, by being able to work together with them, we're able to then work through some of those foods and work out which one the real culprit is, because normally it's not all of the foods that they're intolerant to. They may have just had a reaction and things have flared up because they're continuing to consume that food. Therefore, the markers in the test will come up that there'll be other things that have flared up as well, and it's not necessarily those foods. So it's not to say that they can't ever eat those foods again. We need to try and introduce them back into the diet and see which one is causing the real problem. And sometimes there are things that people then just have to eliminate from their diet, otherwise they do suffer with those symptoms.
Yeah.
Were you both...
And so at this time, with regard to the health implications that we're concerned about at the moment, Are there specific things that you think are useful for people's immunity that would be helpful for them?
Yeah, and I think, you know, having a rounded diet, I think that's the most important thing. I think, you know, that people can feel, oh, I'm at home, this is a great time to go on a diet and try something new and try something different, you know, and we're already under a lot of pressure and stress with everything that's going on. This is probably not the right time to radically change your diet or decide to become a vegan or whatever it might be. This is the time to nourish your body, take in the things that your body needs, making sure that you're getting, you know, all the nutrients that you need. So things like zinc and vitamin A, they can really help with the immune system, and it's really important to keep your immune system strong at the moment, so that if you are at any time exposed to the coronavirus, then your body has a better chance of fighting off that virus if you were to get it. So it's just making sure that you take everything in, that you're getting a good rounded balanced diet of fats, protein, carbohydrates, lots of fruits and vegetables, and just making sure you're doing the best you can with what you can get as well at the moment.
Yeah, and the odd glass of wine and cake and biscuit isn't going to matter too much.
No, not at all. You know, it's one of the things I talk about a lot with my clients is everything in moderation. And what I like to do is teach them about the impact of those choices that they're making. So whether it's having a glass of wine or a cake or, you know, a whole box of chocolates or whatever it might be. And I often find that once you've educated people about the impact of what they're putting into their body, you can make more mindful choices about what you put into your body. And it's fine if you want to have that, you know, as I said, cutting those things out at the moment and putting more stress on yourself to go teetotal or cut out everything, you know, that you perceive as being bad for you is not the time to be doing that.
No.
A little bit of what you fancy does you good, and so if you want a glass of wine, then have it, but know what it's doing to you and accept it, and having it mindfully. It's when we consume things and we're not mindful about what we're consuming, that is where the problem creeps in, and that's where we see like binge eating.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then Katherine, is that the same for you, that you would say, you know, similar with you know, the gut connection and everything, the gut brain connection?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, to a point, I think there's always, as Bonny said, there's a balance to be met, and I think we all know when we're on the right or the wrong side of ourselves. And if you're finding yourself, you know, downing a bottle of wine a night, that's not balanced.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
so,
damn.
Sorry to break it to you, that's not balanced.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, you know, sometimes, yeah, like the odd biscuit, it's not the end of the world, but I think it comes down to like prioritizing. You know, that's a personal choice, isn't it? So sometimes we need comfort, and it's important to comfort ourselves, particularly in times of stress like we are perhaps at the moment. But there is also a time to support your immune system, and maybe those two things don't go hand in hand always, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it is a difficult balance to strike, and I think it's a very personal one. It's not for anybody else to say what's right for another person in that sense, particularly if they're not seeking advice.
And I suppose for some people,
and I think, you know, if people feel that they're a little bit out of control with what they're doing, or they feel that they're drinking excessively or eating excessively, or they feel as though they're making poor choices whilst they're at home, and that you can feel the impact of that, you can physically feel the impact of that, and mentally as well. And I think that's when people then make the decision to reach out for help, because they think that, you know, things are going off track a little bit, and they need to understand about the choices that they're making and take some control back around that. And that's kind of where, you know, I can kind of help with those.
Yeah, the psychological aspect really helps, doesn't it? Yeah. And you were saying as well about labeling things, you know, from a young age, if we get to know about or are being told that something's good or bad.
Yeah, and I often get asked to go and talk with parents with children that are maybe, you know, they're saying, oh, they're fussy eaters, or, you know, struggling to get them to eat certain foods. And there's a bit of research to suggest that if we label foods as good and bad, that from a mental health perspective, children then label themselves good or bad when they consume those foods.
Mm.
So it's about changing the language that we use around those foods. So we might call our, all of the important food groups are, fruit, vegetables, protein, carbs. Those are our everyday foods. And things like the sweets and snacks and cakes, those are sometimes foods. And children can associate that with that more. They don't really understand the concept of good and bad, other than it means I'm good or bad if I eat those things. Whereas if we call them sometimes foods and everyday foods, then they can associate with that a little bit better.
Yeah, nice. And
they don't experience the guilt, do they?
Yeah,
that's it. You want to take the guilt away from it, because that's when, as if I look at the clients that I work with now, a lot of the emotion that they've attached to food and their reaction to food and their beliefs around food will stem right back to when they're children. And the relationship they had with food, their parents' reaction to them consuming the food, a lot of that stems back to that, and like you said, around the guilt around that.
But it's incredible, isn't it, the effect on mental health and physical health? Because I know we were touching on pain a little bit earlier, but it was about joint pain that I remember you both mentioning, that the fact that diet can help with a joint pain that maybe you thought you were going to have forever, and sorry.
Yeah, so inflammation in the body. So if you've got an intolerance to food, it can cause inflammation in the body, and that can show itself up anywhere. A lot of people associate in a food intolerance with, I've got a bad tummy, and I've got a tummy pain, but there are loads of other symptoms that go with food intolerances, and one of those is joint pain.
Yeah.
So I myself, before I found out that I was wheat and gluten intolerant, had horrendous knee pain, to the point where I was seeing a consultant at the hospital. He'd done scans, MRIs, I'd had everything done to my knees. And this is before I was a nutritional therapist, so I had no idea that, that food might be associated with this as well. And so we were at the point where he was going to put the camera in and have a look around and to operate on my knees, because we just couldn't get to the bottom of what the problem was. Then it was at that point I was talking to my GP about that, and I think I might have an intolerance to something, I'm not too sure. He suggested I cut out wheat and gluten, I think dairy at the time as well. And within about 2 weeks, the pain in my knees had completely disappeared and has never reappeared. And I went to my consultant and said, you're just going to think I'm completely mad. But this is what's happened. And he was the one who actually said to me, yes, there's a direct link between a food intolerance and inflammation in the body. So it doesn't surprise me at all that the pain in your knees disappeared. Now you cut those things out.
Didn't you say, Katherine, that happened with you as well?
No. I was just saying that the increase that we're seeing in food intolerances is usually as a result of something called leaky gut syndrome, which is something that some people may have heard of. So the first port of call for me would be to heal your leaky gut. I wouldn't like to estimate what the statistics are of people that actually have leaky gut, but I'd imagine it's pretty high. And the more disease states that we're seeing that have the word itis at the end of it would probably indicate, as Bonny was saying, high levels of inflammation in your body. And we can exacerbate that by what we choose to eat or choose not to eat.
Yeah. You were saying about the microbiome. What does that mean, to have a healthy microbiome?
Okay, well, microbiome is a kind of, essentially it's a word that covers the bacterial environment that inhabits your body, the majority of which resides in your gut. Each of our individual microbiomes can weigh up to about 4 kilos, which is amazing, isn't it?
Wow. And
that's all bacteria, and there's a blend of, I'm going to have to use the words good and bad. When it comes to bacteria, that's okay. And obviously what we want is more good than bad. And quite often, because of lifestyle choices, the way we live, most of our microbiomes are compromised, and we might see an imbalance in the sense we have more bad bacteria than good. And excuse me, the good bacteria are responsible for a range of processes like synthesizing minerals and vitamins, moving things through your bowel in an appropriate manner. They have an influence on the production of many hormones, many of which influence mental health. And one of the most important functions is to maintain the integrity of the gut wall. So when I was talking about leaky gut syndrome, is because the tiny perforations, if you like, a bit like a tea bag. Your gut is only one cell thick, and those little holes that absorb nutrients through them need to be a certain size. And what happens with leaky gut is those holes become bigger, and consequently then we're absorbing things from the inside of our gut into our bloodstreams, and that's what's triggering an immune response and creating inflammation. So when our gut bacteria, our microbiomes, are out of balance, then we are not maintaining the integrity of the gut wall, and then consequently we see the sort of disease states that we see all the time now.
So things like antibiotics, that kind of thing, that can knock your microbiome completely out, I presume.
Yeah, most definitely. And we're all kind of, byproducts, well, people of my age are anyway, of the 70s, when you were dished out antibiotics of, just because you had a sore throat or, a snivelly nose or something. They were handed out like sweets. I think there's much more awareness of the damage that they can do. Of course, there's always a case for them. It's not to make a blanket statement. But I think we're a lot more discerning now, because they do have, antibiotic literally means against life in a sense. So it's, but they don't always target a specific type of bacteria. So sometimes they'll kill off the good guys as well as the bad.
Absolutely. I talk about that a lot as well, Katherine, and actually it surprises when I say to my clients about it. And I'd said to one client recently about having antibiotics, like if you've ever had antibiotics, your gut biome will have been impacted by it. And they mentioned it to their GP, and their GP had said to them, well, you haven't had antibiotics in the last 12 months, so that won't have impacted your gut biome at all. Sadly, not the case. And I always describe it to people as, antibiotics do what it says on the tin. They are antibiotics. They get rid of all the bacteria, good or bad. They don't make a choice. They get rid of everything, which, as Katherine said, in some instances is good, because there are bad bacteria that needs to get rid of if you've got an infection, and to help you with those things. But when it wipes out all the good bacteria as well, the side effect of that is just horrendous. And actually the amount of people that I know that have just introduced probiotics into their diet and really not changed an awful lot else other than introducing probiotics, because they eat very well normally, they eat a very good balanced diet, but actually that gut biome is just out of whack. And that actually, just by introducing some really good pre and probiotics, whether that's through a supplement or through food, is a really good way to get that balance back again. So something I'm passionate about as well, Katherine, so we can agree on that.
Yeah. If somebody does have to go on antibiotics, so interestingly in Italy, if somebody is prescribed antibiotics, they're also prescribed a probiotic. So they take both at the same time. We don't have that, presumably.
No, there are a handful of GPs that will say to people, you need to get a good probiotic if they prescribe antibiotics, but it's not the standard and it's not required. I know my daughter had scarlet fever a few years ago and was given antibiotics. So I had her in the car coming from the GP surgery. So I parked up outside the pharmacy to run in and go and get her prescription, and said to the pharmacist, I need some probiotics while I'm here. And she said, I've literally got these sachets, that's all I've got. I said, that's fine, I'll take them. And said to my daughter, oh, the doctor's giving you these as well, you need to take them, because if I'd have told her to take them, kids are like, they don't take any from their parents. But she, so honestly, if you take the probiotics with, not at the same time, but actually the same time of day, but if you take them whilst you're taking antibiotics, honestly, you won't get all of those nasty side effects that you get with antibiotics.
It would help to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
So Katherine, how do you help people get through their problems? What do you do along with the colonic irrigation?
Yeah, well, of course, at the moment the clinic's closed, of course, and that's something I definitely can't do remotely.
No.
Very specific equipment. So we also, my colleague and I, Lotus, we also offer it's a 21-day gut microbiome reset program, which is something that our clients have just been blown away by, really. We've only been doing it for about 4 to 5 months, and it's just yielding some incredible results, because what it helps to do, as I said earlier, is like it targets the purification of that person's microbiome. So it's not about making somebody something that they're not. It's about creating an environment within them that enables their natural microbiome, because each of our microbiomes is as individual as our fingerprints, but enables it to flourish in a way that supports them best. So that's something we can still do remotely. It is supplement based. There's a diet to follow. It's wonderfully structured and lots of information that goes with it. So that's something we're still doing. But as Bonny said, I think it's, it'd be sensible with yourself at the moment and not put too many challenges on yourself. But some people are really still quite grounded and quite okay. So if they're still looking at ways to support themselves from the inside out, then that's something they might consider.
Make themselves a project.
Possibly, yeah.
Their gut, a project.
Yeah. Because, for some people, I mean, I live like a hermit, so it's kind of easy for me. But some people, have a big social life. So trying to live a restricted life for 21 days would be an additional difficulty for them. So right now might be a good time.
To try it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So they won't miss that or have that temptation that perhaps, they would in their ordinary life. Yeah.
Nice. So the other thing that I would love to know is sort of like hydration, just sort of making sure that we're hydrated. And I know that Katherine, you were talking about an analogy with a pot plant, which I quite liked. So I wondered if you could share that with us right now. It was such a good image.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I mean, I think metaphors are great, because we can always get a handle on a good metaphor, can't we? So yeah, I see loads of people in the clinic, of course, with constipation as a main complaint. And usually, doctors will say the first thing they'll say is eat more fibre. I'll talk about that in a mo, if I may. And another one is drink more water. But some of these people are still doing the right things, and then they still have constipation, which means there's another reason. But water is so important for so many functions in our body. And quite often, as I think Bonny said yesterday, we don't even realise that we are dehydrated. But what we do when we realise that we are is probably just down a couple of pints. And then my clients will say, well, I've been drinking water, but all I do is pee more. And it just looks like what went in. So what's the point? Well, this is kind of how to do it, really. If you think about a pot plant, which you've neglected, because I'm sure everybody's done that at some point, and then you notice it and it's all sort of sitting all withered in its pot, and the soil is shrunken away from the sides of the pot, and you look at it in a fit of guilt and pour a pint of water in, and all the water does is just goes straight through the soil and piddles out all over your carpet, which is annoying. And it's the same with our bodies. So because that kind of hydration happens on a deeper level, if we just pour in a couple of pints of water, it pretty much goes straight through, as it does with the pot plant. However, if you just dripped water into that soil of the pot plant, then it would eventually plump itself up and then fill the pot, and the plant would pick itself up again. And it's the same with us. So you're better off to rehydrate your body, rather than drinking pints at a time, is to just persistently sip water throughout the day. And just for a little top tip for people who are struggling a little bit with their bowels, because often when we're stressed, as most of us are to some degree by this external factor of the coronavirus at the moment, then our bowels often shut down. So one way to get them going is first thing in the morning. Is the first thing you do before you do anything else is drink a pint, if you can. This sounds contrary to what I've just said, but it isn't. Drink a pint of warm water, and you can put a bit of lemon juice in it if you like. It down in one go if you can manage it, because what that does effectively is create like a Mexican wave through your body. It stimulates something called the gastrocolic reflex in your stomach, which is it's sort of like something's gone in, so something has to move out. So it all sort of moves down your body in one big movement. So hopefully that would help your bowels to move a little bit more easily.
Yeah.
There you go, I went on a bit there.
That sounds amazing.
Mexican wave in your gut.
Get that going, And Bonny, add anything to benefits of the water, the drinking water, hydrating yourself?
Yeah, this one of the things again that I talk about a lot with my clients about the importance of hydration. As Katherine said, when we've talked before about hydration, when you feel thirsty, you're already dehydrated. So if you've got to that point, you're already dehydrated, and people assume dehydration to be, oh, you know, I've got a headache, I feel fatigued, you know, those kind of severe symptoms. Well, that means you're severely dehydrated if you've got to that point, which is not great. But to just feel thirsty means that you're dehydrated. So exactly what Katherine said, it's sipping water through the day. You don't have to, you know, chuck down loads of water in one go, and actually if you do it gradually, your body gets used to it, and you don't then get that symptom of having to go to the loo every 5 minutes, because your body's just, you know, gradually taking in the water. But water can help with so many different things, and the majority of our body is made up from water. So it can help with skin problems, migraine, joints, stomach problems, insomnia, menopause symptoms. You know, there are so many things that can help with that, you know, people just underestimate what water can do for us.
Yeah, the power. Does fruit tea count as water?
Yeah, that's fine. The only things that would dehydrate you further are anything that's got caffeine in it, so things like coffee, tea, green tea has a bit of caffeine in as well. And obviously avoid fizzy drinks and things like that.
Yeah.
But, you know, fruit teas and things like that are absolutely fine.
I remember being told at one point that if you have a cup of tea, make sure you follow it with a glass of water. You know, don't have 2 cups of tea or 3 in a row. Always alternate with water as well, because then you're rehydrating again.
Yeah, and I think, you know, a lot of people also assume that most of the caffeine is in coffee, and not realizing that it can be in tea or even green tea. You know, we associate green tea as being, you know, super healthy and good for us, but there is caffeine in that as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting.
So,
sorry, carry on, Nikki.
No, you go.
No, I was just going to say it's interesting when you sort of read about different foods and everything, and how your body can be depleted by some of the you know, the good nutrients like magnesium and stuff like that, you know, with fizzy drinks and all these other things, which I think a lot of people don't realize. So I don't know if either of you got any advice, if there's anything particularly awful that can deplete your body that would be worth knowing about, of anything.
Oh, how long have you got?
Sorry. I mean, I suppose fizzy drinks are an obvious one, aren't they?
Yeah, what are the key things that people have a lot of?
It's a very well-known brand of fizzy drink is my absolute bugbear. I absolutely hate it. When I worked corporately for many years, and my team used to get fed up with me of sending them links round via email about how awful this stuff was, because they used to drink it in excess, and just how terrible it is for you and what it does to your body and your gut and just your overall health. So I would absolutely say.
And what about the NutraSweet and the sugar-free and the aspartame? Is that something that you encourage people to avoid as well, or not?
There are some good, bad in different ones, but yeah, anything that's been man-made is typically not great for us. You know, and even if you look at things like fat-free, sugar-free foods, kind of packaged foods, well, if something's fat-free, fat is what gives food its taste and some of the texture as well. So as soon as we make something fat-free, a lot of the taste is taken out of it, and it'll be pumped full of sugar to give it some taste back. So just because something is labelled as being maybe better for us or a healthier option, it isn't always the case. And just read the labels if you're buying anything would be and make a comparison. If you go to the supermarket, pick up a normal full fat yogurt and look at a fat-free yogurt and look at what's in them, because I guarantee there'll be more sugar in the fat-free option than there were in the other one. So just be mindful. Just because something says it's better for you or is making some claims that it's better for you, don't believe everything you read.
No. And one
Good
of
advice.
is the energy, some of the energy drinks, because my kids used to really get into the energy drinks, and the sugar in those and the caffeine is like, whoa, I mean, phenomenal. Yeah.
And there have been some really horrific stories as well about, you know, the people having terrible side effects, and, you know, even some people dying from drinking too many energy drinks as well. Our bodies just don't need it.
No.
Yeah.
Can I say something on that note? I mean, I think this with on a lesser degree, you know, big caffeine drinkers as well, because the thing is, if your body feels like it needs a lift, then the caffeine doesn't really bring anything to the party. It's just asking something from your body that it already doesn't have. So if you need a lift, what you actually need is a sleep. So you need to slow things down, not try and shift yourself up a gear when you don't have another gear to move into. That's always been my feeling. And, you know, I know sometimes there will be circumstances where, you know, we need to fall back on something like that, but if it becomes a daily habit, perhaps it needs, you know, to be reviewed.
Yeah, because you're constantly just stressing your body, aren't you? You're putting your body under more and more stress.
Yeah,
I imagine.
And the same with those, sorry, I'm going to say it, those dreadful drinks. I just don't even know how they made their way to our shelves.
No.
Put my soap back under the table.
I'm with you on that one, Katherine.
You're more diplomatic than me, Bonny.
Yeah. When I really get going, if you go on my Facebook page and things, you'll see me that I like to share lots of posts about these horrific drinks and all the stuff that's in them and why we should avoid them like the plague.
Yeah, definitely.
So Bonny, have you got something that you're doing at the moment while we're sort of in this lockdown? What are you offering?
So I've put out a couple of videos already. So I put a video out on my Facebook page, I think it was last week, about how to help with your immunity. So giving some kind of top 5 tips, the things that you can do to help with your immunity. I've also just written a recipe book for ladies that are experiencing bloating with endometriosis. That's quite a common problem. So that's a freebie that's available on my Facebook page and all my social media links at the moment as well. And there'll be more things coming out. So I'm also a yoga teacher, and I teach mindfulness and meditation as well. And so I'm just getting my head around the technology at the moment, and hope to put some yoga lessons out and a bit of meditation, and linking the mindfulness to choices that we're making as well. So there's lots of free stuff out there at the moment that's all across my kind of social media to help people.
Lovely.
Excellent. Sounds wonderful.
And Katherine.
Oh, you go. Sorry. Yeah, I was just thinking, I'm probably more IT or technology challenged than Bonny by a long chalk. I was doing like a monthly talk on the microbiome at the clinic, but of course we can't do that now. And I'm hoping to kind of get my head around the technology to do the same thing online, but I'm just not quite there yet. But I've got a clear day tomorrow, so maybe I'll get on top of that and can let you guys know.
Brilliant.
Did you have a colleague who's doing something?
Yes, but I'm afraid I haven't got the information on that either. Sorry about that, but I can send you a link.
Okay, brilliant. Or people can contact you if they want to know about it.
Yeah, if somebody just, I mean, I can't do anything about it at the moment, but if people are interested to find out more about what colonics are all about, really, you can download a free book from my website, thehealthygutclinic.co.uk. If you want to do that, it's not War and Peace. It's only about 35 pages. You could probably get through it if you were constipated in one sitting. Yeah, so just but it answers the real questions that people want to ask. You know.
Can I just ask one quick question then, Katherine? How often would you recommend that somebody did have a colonic?
Yeah, it's a really difficult question to answer because it would depend on the individual. And, you know, so for example, someone who presents to us who has a, I'm trying not to say the word poo, but it's out now. One poo every, 10 days, and they've done that for maybe 15 years, they would probably need a couple more treatments than someone who goes easily every day and takes good care of themselves. So it's a very personal thing. Yeah. But from a maintenance point of view, it could be something you do maybe once or twice a year. That I think that's adequate. That's what I would aim to do myself. But things, life comes at us, doesn't it, in different ways. So it's just an individual thing, really, and that's something that your practitioner would obviously work with you on.
Yeah. No, interesting. So is there anything that either of you would like to say about what you do that we haven't covered? Anything that you feel that you have said?
I think, just kind of recapping on what I said earlier about taking good care of yourself and just being mindful about where you are and how you're feeling at the moment. This is not the time to make massive changes, but I think if you're struggling with things, then again, that's something that I can help with, and I have taken stuff online, so I'm still coaching people online, and I'm also doing nutritional therapy with clients online as well. So those options are still available to people, so they can still work with me on those things. Don't feel like just because you're at home that you can't address some of those issues or maybe some of the concerns and stuff that you've got at the moment, because it is available and it is an option. There's plenty of other people that are doing the same as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and we discussed this previously, didn't we? It's like it's okay to be unokay, and I think to use your own internal radar about what's okay for you from one moment to the next, and to kind of be more internally referenced, really. I think sometimes it's easy to get whipped into a frenzy by another person's anxiety, and I think that's a kind of our personal responsibility. For me, I'm managing how much exposure I get to the media, how much exposure I give myself with social media, because I find I can get triggered into anxious thinking, and that doesn't serve me. So that's my responsibility to manage, and I'd recommend everybody does the same thing, really.
I think you're right, Katherine, because this is completely different for us. We're, for people, for everyone that's isolating at the moment, most of our interaction, if we're not interacting with the people that we're living with, we're interacting online, and I see so many people putting things out of, you can learn this and do this, and this is available, and and it's just bombarding you. Whereas it's a different platform. We're not used to that. Yes, there's a lot of stuff on social media, and there's always lots of things out there, but suddenly it's been ramped up to such a level that you can get completely bombarded with it, and that's not even taking into consideration what's in the media and the news around what's going on and the impact of this, and maybe the impact on your own lives if you know somebody that's had this, or you sadly lost somebody through this as well. So you're trying to deal with all of that, and this is like a new world for us, and how do we fit into that new world, and how do we find our way and find our peace within all of this?
I think you're right.
And it's been so rapid.
It's not easy, but I think it's really good to what you said. It's important to know that it's okay to not be having great days all the time. I think it's good to acknowledge it's fine, it's okay if you're not having a good moment. But I think that was just really informative, and I think you've given some real good value to people out there for what they can do for their health, and which can help them with their immunity, which can help them with their mental health and their physical health and everything. So thank you so much, both of you, for spending the time this morning to talk with Nicky and I. It's been really good.
Yeah, thank you. Really, really grateful.
Well, thank you for facilitating it, because it's a great opportunity. It's obviously Bonny and myself have lots of information that can be helpful, but you've given us a platform to share it. So thank you.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
I agree. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Just hope that like you said, that people have got some value out of what Katherine and myself have been able to share today.
Yeah, I think people will get a lot of value from it.
Brilliant.
Definitely. And I'm now going to be technical, and I'm going to screen share with everybody, because Nicky put together all of your information. So I'll just leave it on for the last minute of the recording, so that people can get your information. Okay, so I will try and do that right now as we are speaking. Okay, share. Oh, okay. Consult and enlarge. So is all of your information for people to, you can take a screenshot and have this information, but the information will also be put on the on social media where we put it. So okay, so thanks very much. I'll stop that.
Thank you, all of you.
Yeah, thanks very much, ladies. Bye.
Thanks then. Take care.
Take care. Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Stay safe. Bye. Bye.